Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be doing what if Michael Dukakis won in the 1988 election. Taking a look at the 1988 election. First we just gave Dukakis all the states that were closest to him that he needs to win in order to win, and this is the map right here. Dukakis would win 277 to 260 against George Bush right here. All he has to do is run a better campaign, figure out more intensive attacks on Bush, because Bush was a beatable candidate, just Dukakis ran his campaign very terribly. And in his term, we would see a U.S. and Canada protectionist trade agreement. Canada wouldn't be a free trade country, it would be more protectionist trade. There would be an assault weapons ban. Bush did that in our time, and Dukakis would sign a more intense assault weapons ban. The Cold War would come to an end. There would be a recession. The Americans with Disabilities Act would be passed. This was passed with the intent to help disabled Americans. There would be a very high tax increase, as well as high unemployment, as well as the Gulf War happening. Going on to the 1992 election, we would have Pat Buchanan running for the Republicans. This would be a very strong shift from Reaganism to the America First coalition. We wouldn't have Reaganism long. It would just go straight to a mixture of the Tea Party movement as well as America First. Kind of like a mixture of the two. And Pat Buchanan would defeat Michael Dukakis 300 to 238 very easily. He'd win about 4% of the popular vote. And in his first term, START 2 would be signed. Osama bin Laden would be assassinated during this time, so there would be no 9/11 or a war on terror. NAFTA would happen, the North American Protectionist Trade Agreement. If you saw my Supreme Court decision timeline, you know what NAFTA is. Not NAFTA, NAPTA. He would repeal Dukakis' assault weapons bans, and he would lower taxes by a record margin, more than what Reagan did. Going on in 1996, Democrats would nominate Bill Clinton. He would be the former governor of Arkansas, and he would be seen as a good choice by many, but he still wouldn't get the job done. Buchanan would be fairly popular, and there would be no Ross Perot since NAFTA isn't a thing. So he would just be an independent swing voter, leaning towards more so of a Republican, of America First Republican. And Pat Buchanan would defeat Bill Clinton to win re-election, and during his second term, not much would get done, but the Iraq Liberation Act would be signed, meaning Saddam Hussein would be ousted out of power when that occurs in this timeline. Going on to the 2000 election, we would have a very historical election. Democrats would nominate former Texas Governor Ann Richards. She would be the first female nominee, and Republicans would nominate Vice President Alan Keyes, which he would be the first African-American nominee, major party nominee. Running mates, Ann Richards would choose New Jersey Senator Bill Bradley, and Alan Keyes would choose Texas Governor George Bush. So Bush would become the second Vice President Bush if Keyes were to win, but he doesn't. Ann Richards ends up beating him. Keyes ends up running a terrible campaign. We've had 8 years of Republican rule, so independents switch over to Ann Richards, which gives her the race. And there is no tight race Florida. The closest race would be in the Rust Belt, would be Wisconsin. That would be the closest race. Florida would be decided within a lean margin. Richards would win it by 2 or 3 points. She's very popular in the South, but only wins the states of Virginia and Florida. During her first term, there would be no war on terror, as we've already established, and she would sign the No Child Left Behind Act, which is an educational bill, if I'm not mistaken. Going on to 2004, Ann Richards would be like George Bush, except she wouldn't have 9/11 to write on, and she would face off against Ron Paul. But she would just be, hey, she's there, but she's a strong woman. So it would take a lot to beat her, but Ron Paul's just not it. And she ends up beating Ron Paul to win re-election, 301 to 236. In her second term, bad things would happen. The housing bubble would burst, as well as the Great Recession. But of course, she does pass the Matthew Shepard Act in this timeline. That is passed, which was an LGBTQ rights bill. So that is signed. Going on to 2008, we would say a Republican landslide due to the recession. Republicans would nominate Mike Huckabee. He would be the strongest candidate in 2008. And Democrats would nominate Bill Richardson. There's no Barack Obama because Obama wouldn't run. He's a smart fellow. He wouldn't run in a year where even he would know Democrats would lose because of Ann Richards being the face of the Great Recession and the housing bubble burst. There is no Hillary Clinton because Bill Clinton wouldn't have become president, so Hillary Clinton would have never succeeded in the New York Senate race, nor or elevate to Secretary of State under Ann Richards. That wouldn't happen. But though it could happen, Ann Richards could nominate Hillary Clinton, though I see her more so nominating someone like Al Gore or John Kerry to the position. So, and there's no John Edwards, of course, because of the scandal where he cheated on his dying wife, so that's not happening either. So Bill Richardson, the governor of New Mexico, would be the top choice, and Mike Huckabee would choose Colorado Congressman Tom Tancredo for his running mate, someone who is coming back in the limelight as of recently to possibly run for Senate. I don't think he will, but just what I've heard. And Bill Richardson would choose Rhode Island Senator Jack Reed as his running mate, but Huckabee would end up winning multiple traditional Democrat states such as Oregon and New Jersey, kind of like how Obama won Indiana and Nebraska second in our timeline. Oregon and New Jersey would be seen as flukes, but Huckabee would defeat Bill Richardson 366 to 172 to become the next president of the United States, the 44th president. And in his first term, he would overturn the Matthew Shepard Act. There he would institute a public smoking ban, a universal public smoking ban. There would be multiple tax cuts, increased military spending, and he would micromanage the economy similar to how Obama did, but a bit more conservative. The Great Recession would stay at least a couple months longer than it did in our timeline, because Huckabee would be a lot more, as I said, conservative with it. Obama was, not afraid to just go ham on it. Huckabee would. In America, he would preach religious values a lot more than Reagan did, so we would go to more of a religious direction in the country, and gay rights would be pushed back another decade or so. So, where are we at right now with gay rights? That would happen in 2030, 2040. Going on to the 2012 election, Democrats would nominate Dennis Kucinich. And some other Democrats that ran, Mike Gravel, Alan Grayson, Howard Dean, Russ Feingold, Alvin Green, and Ralph Nader. Russ Feingold being the top opposition to Kucinich, and he almost won the nomination, but Kucinich edges it out in the final state, which I think is Connecticut. And he would choose former Iowa Governor Tom Vilsack as his running mate, which is why he wins both Iowa and Ohio. But Republican President Mike Huckabee would still defeat Democrat Congressman Dennis Kucinich 310 to 228 to win re-election. And he almost loses the popular vote. The popular vote is decided by less than 1 million votes, but Huckabee still ends up winning it. And there's not much that gets done in Huckabee's second term due to the 2014 midterms where Democrats would take both houses of Congress, but he would institute a revenge porn ban nationwide. So revenge porn is banned in every state under Huckabee. Going on to 2016, there is no Donald Trump. Donald Trump would still be a Democrat in this timeline. Since there is no Obama and the whole birther theory, Donald Trump doesn't switch his party affiliation to independent than to Republican, so he stays as a neoliberal populist Democrat. But he doesn't have any presidential aspirations. So Republicans go on to face off to choose a Tea Party activist, Senator Ted Cruz, who is the most prominent Tea Party activist in the party right now. And Democrats would continue onto the establishment roots. They would choose former health secretary under the Richards administration, Kathleen Sebelius. Ever since she was nominated in, let's say, 2001, people knew she was going to become president one day, and she runs in 2016, and defeating Sanders, O'Malley, Lessig, Chaffee, Webb, and Delaware Governor Jack Markle ends up running since there's no Hillary Clinton. Ted Cruz would end up choosing Carly Fiorina as his running mate, and Kathleen Sebelius would choose Admiral William McRaven, probably to get more of the military vote, which some say helps her in this election as she flips the state of Michigan, and she makes Georgia and Kansas a lot closer. But Democrat Secretary Kathleen Sebelius would defeat Republican Senator Ted Cruz 271 to 261 to become the 45th president. That's a typo. But in her first term, the U.S. would finally enter the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It's about 8 years late, but it happens this time. She would sign a federal law decriminalizing medical marijuana, so medical marijuana is legal in all 50 states. She would sign something similar to Obamacare, but a lot stronger, more left-wing, a public option healthcare, healthcare with public option. The trade war with China would still happen. Again, what Donald Trump did was very left-wing when it comes to the trade war with China, and Sebelius would probably do the same thing. The U.S. would still enter the Iranian nuclear deal. That would happen in her term. We would have the Persian Gulf crisis still occurring, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. And so, going on to the 2020 election, Rand Paul would end up becoming the Republican nominee, the son of Ron Paul. And Bill Weld, Joe Walsh, they'd still run, but Tom Cotton, Chris Christie, and Scott Walker would also run in this. Chris Christie not doing as well. Rand Paul would actually win every single state in the primary except Arkansas, which goes to Tom Cotton, and Wisconsin, that goes to Scott Walker. And Sebelius does face off against two primary challenges, Bill de Blasio, which he actually almost he almost beats her in the state of Iowa as well as New Hampshire. He only narrowly loses. And David Zuckerman, which he wins the state of Vermont on Super Tuesday, which Sebelius ends up losing, becomes the first president to lose a state primary since Bill Clinton when he lost North Dakota, but he didn't file in North Dakota, so that's why he lost. Rand Paul would end up choosing Scott Walker, which helps him in the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin's always been a lean-to-tilt state for either party, and in this race, he wins it by 5 points due to Scott Walker. Republican Senator Rand Paul would defeat Democrat President Kathleen Sebelius 301 to 237 to become the 46th president. Again, the popular vote's very close. Rand Paul doesn't lose the popular vote, but he ends up winning it by less than 1 million votes, probably 900,000. Georgia also flips the trends in the state, would give it to Sebelius easily despite a pandemic. But anyway, guys, this is the Chaotic One. I hope you enjoyed this video. Go follow my Twitter, @ChaoticPolitics. Peace.